The warning lights flashed red across the bridge of Earth's orbital. Defense Station Alpha, as Commander Jake Morrison stared at the incoming transmission. The message had arrived on a frequency that humanity had never used before, encrypted with codes that their best computers took 3 hours to crack. What they found inside made Jake's blood run cold. The holographic display materialized in the center of the command deck, showing a tall figure with pale blue skin and 4 arms crossed in what could only be described as arrogance. The creature's eyes were large and black, set in an elongated skull that seemed to look down on everything around it. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority mixed with barely hidden disgust. Primitive species of the third planet, the alien began, its words translated by computers that struggled with the complex grammar. I am Kethvar of the Zephyrian delegation, speaking for the Galactic Council of 12. Your time of reckless expansion has ended. You have been observed, judged, and found lacking in the basic qualities required for civilized participation in galactic society. Jake felt his jaw tighten as he watched the recording. Around him, the bridge crew had gone silent, their usual chatter replaced by the kind of focused attention that only came with genuine danger. Lieutenant Commander Susan Blake stepped closer to the main display, her face pale but determined. Alien continued its message with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. Your species has demonstrated an alarming tendency toward violence, territorial aggression, and unpredictable behavior patterns that threaten the stability hour. Council has maintained for over 50,000 years. The recent expansion of human settlements into the Kepler 442 system, despite clear warnings from the Altarian Federation, represents the final violation we can tolerate. Jake's mind raced as he processed the implications. The Kepler 442 system had been empty when human colonists arrived there 18 months ago. There had been no warnings, no signs of alien presence, nothing to suggest that humanity was stepping on anyone's territory. Yet here was this creature claiming otherwise, with absolute certainty. Therefore, Kethvar's image announced, the Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding the future of your species. You have 72 of your Earth hours to comply with the following terms, which are not negotiable and will not be extended under any circumstances. The hologram shifted to display what looked like a formal document written in dozens of alien languages, with human English appearing at the bottom in small, almost insulting text. Jake read the terms with growing disbelief, each line more outrageous than the last. First, all human military vessels, installations, and defensive systems must be powered down and surrendered to Council oversight within the specified time frame. Second, all human colonies beyond your home system must be evacuated immediately, with populations returned to Earth or designated Council preservation worlds. Third, Earth itself will be placed under the direct administration of Council-appointed governors who will ensure proper management of your species going forward. The document continued with precise details about how humanity would be relocated to what could only be described as cosmic reservations. Specific worlds had been chosen where humans could live under alien supervision, their technology limited to pre-industrial levels, their population carefully controlled to prevent future expansion. It was not conquest in the traditional sense, but something far worse, complete domestication. These terms are generous, considering your species' aggressive nature, Kethvar continued. Many council members advocated for more severe measures, including the complete sterilization of your spacefaring capability. However, the wisdom of preservation has prevailed. Humanity will be protected from its own destructive tendencies, while contributing to galactic diversity as a protected species. Jake turned to Susan, who was already pulling up tactical displays of the solar system. What they saw there made the situation even more dire. 500 alien warships had taken position at the edge of their star system, arranged in a formation. That spoke of overwhelming military superiority. The vessels were massive, each one easily 3 times the size of humanity's largest battleships, and their energy signatures indicated weapons technology far beyond anything Earth could produce. The Council fleet currently maintaining position in your outer system represents only a fraction of our available forces, the alien explained, as if reading their minds. These ships alone possess sufficient firepower to reduce every human world to sterile rock within hours. However, we prefer cooperation to destruction, civilization to barbarism. The recording showed Kethver's 4 arms spreading wide in what might have been meant as a gesture of magnanimity. Your response is required within the specified time frame. Failure to comply will result in the immediate implementation of more direct measures. The Council's patience with primitive species is limited, but our commitment to galactic order is absolute. As the message ended, Jake found himself staring at a countdown timer that had appeared on every screen in the command center. 71 hours, 43 minutes, and 15 seconds until humanity was expected to surrender everything they had built among the stars. Admiral Lisa Parker's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth's military headquarters. Jake, please tell me you found some kind of technical error in that transmission. No error, Admiral, Jake replied, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. The message is authentic, the fleet is real, and they're serious about their timeline. We've got less than 3 days to decide the fate of our entire species. Captain Ben Rodriguez, who had been quietly analyzing the alien ship formations, looked up from his displays with a grim expression. Admiral, I've run the numbers on their fleet composition. Even if we marshaled every human ship in space, we'd be outnumbered 10 to 1 by vessels with superior technology. A direct confrontation would be suicide. Dr. Karen White, humanity's leading expert on alien contact protocols, had been studying the cultural implications of the message. The way they're presenting this isn't standard diplomatic procedure, she observed. This isn't a negotiation, or even a proper ultimatum. They're treating us like animals that need to be relocated for our own good. Admiral Parker's image appeared. On the main screen, her face showing the strain of someone who had just watched their worst fears come true. I'm calling an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Every nation, every military commander, every scientist who might have ideas about how to handle this situation. We have 71 hours to find a miracle. As the communication ended, Jake looked around at his crew and saw the same mixture of fear and determination that he felt in his own chest. Humanity had always known that first contact with alien civilizations might not go well, but they had imagined conquest or invasion, not this condescending offer of protective custody. The countdown timer continued its relentless march toward 0, each second bringing them closer to a decision that would determine whether humanity remained free or became the galaxy's newest pet species. The first thing that caught Admiral Dexmane's attention was not what humanity did, but what they stopped doing. From his position aboard the Council flagship Eternal Wisdom, the veteran commander had expected panic, desperate diplomatic messages, or frantic military preparations. Instead, human space had gone completely quiet. The silence began 12 hours after the ultimatum was delivered. Every human trade vessel that had been traveling between star systems suddenly changed course and headed home. The busy shipping lanes that connected human colonies went empty within a day. Communication networks that usually buzzed with civilian chatter, military coordination, and commercial traffic simply went dark. Status report. Nexman ordered his intelligence officer, a methodical Altarian named Veldok, who had been monitoring human activities for the past 6 months. Sir, all detected human vessels have returned to their home ports or nearest colonies. Veldok reported, his 3 eyes focusing on different data streams simultaneously. We are detecting no military buildup, no evacuation fleets, and no attempts at diplomatic contact through any known channels. Dexman's scaled brow furrowed as he studied the tactical displays. In his 4 centuries of military service, he had overseen the subjugation of 17 different species. Each had followed predictable patterns: initial defiance, desperate; attempts at negotiation, military posturing, and finally acceptance when faced with overwhelming force. Humans were doing none of these things. Meanwhile, deep beneath the surface of Luna Base 7, Colonel Amy Carter was coordinating the most complex logistics operation in human history. The underground command center hummed with quiet activity. As officers moved between workstations, their voices kept to whispers despite the advanced sound-dampening systems. "Status on the outer colonies," Amy asked General Rick Hayes, who was reviewing reports from across human space. "New Eden reports all civilians relocated to safe zones. Mars Industrial Complex has completed equipment transfers. The asteroid mining. Operations in the belt have finished their final shipments," Rick replied, checking off items on a list that seemed impossibly long. "Dr. Neil Brooks confirms that all quantum communication nodes are active and undetectable." Amy nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with implementing Protocol Omega. The contingency plan had been developed in secret over the past 5 years. After intelligence reports suggested that humanity's rapid expansion might eventually draw unwanted attention from older galactic civilizations. What had started as theoretical preparation was now their only hope for survival as a free species. The quantum communication network was humanity's greatest secret. While aliens used conventional faster-than-light communication, that could be detected and intercepted. Human scientists had developed a system based on quantum entanglement that was completely invisible to external monitoring. It allowed perfect coordination across vast distances without anyone knowing the messages existed. Captain Sam Johnson received his coded instructions while his research vessel, New Horizon, was conducting a routine survey of an empty star system, 300 light-years from Earth. The message was simple: execute Phase 1 of Protocol Omega. Maintain radio silence. Trust the plan. Sam had been briefed on Protocol Omega 2 years ago, but like most military personnel, he had hoped it would never be necessary. The plan was audacious to the point of seeming impossible, yet as he looked at his crew's determined faces, he knew they would follow their orders without question. "All hands, this is the captain," Sam announced over the ship's internal communication system. "We are now operating under Protocol Omega. From this moment forward, we maintain complete radio silence on all conventional frequencies. Anyone who discusses our mission with unauthorized personnel will be confined to quarters. We have work to do." Across human space, similar scenes were playing out on hundreds of ships and installations. The protocol that had seemed like science fiction during training exercises was now their reality. Every human civilian and military personnel had been briefed on the basics. If humanity ever faced an extinction-level threat from alien civilizations, they would implement a plan that would ensure the species' survival, even if it meant abandoning everything they had built. Back on the Council flagship, Vexman was growing increasingly concerned about the lack of human response. His tactical advisors had assured him that the demonstration of overwhelming force would bring immediate capitulation. But the countdown timer showed only 18 hours remaining, and still no word from Earth. "Perhaps they are simply paralyzed by fear," suggested his aide, a young Zephyrian officer who had never participated in a species integration before. "Fear would produce panic, not silence," Vexman replied, his experience telling him that something was fundamentally wrong with their assumptions about human behavior. Fear would drive them to attempt negotiation or surrender. This silence suggests calculation. Dr. Helen Scott worked from a research facility that officially did not exist, buried so deep beneath the Rocky Mountains that it would survive anything short of a planet-killing asteroid impact. Her team of quantum physicists had spent the last 48 hours running final checks on systems that humanity prayed they would never need to use. Final synchronization test complete, reported her assistant, Dr. Marcus Webb. All quantum. Displacement drives are responding within acceptable parameters. The pocket dimension generators are stable and ready for activation. Helen allowed herself a moment of pride in what they had accomplished. The technology they had developed was beyond anything the galactic community had imagined possible. While other species had mastered faster-than-light travel and advanced weapons, humanity had learned to step outside of normal spacetime entirely. The pocket dimensions were small artificial universes, carefully crafted to support human life and completely isolated from the main galaxy. They could be accessed only through quantum gates that existed in a state of controlled dimensional flux. To outside observers, anything that entered a pocket dimension would simply vanish without a trace. President Claire Adams sat in the situation. Room deep beneath the White House, surrounded by the leaders of every major nation on Earth. The room was filled with tension, but also with a strange sense of calm that comes from knowing that all possible preparations have been made. The latest reports confirm that all human assets are ready for immediate displacement, reported Defense Secretary Paul Graham. Colony populations have been relocated to staging areas. Military installations have been prepared for quantum transfer. Commercial infrastructure has been either moved or rigged for emergency displacement. Science Director Julie Martinez added, her own assessment, the pocket dimensions can support our current population indefinitely. The artificial environments are stable, resources are renewable, and we have room for significant expansion. If necessary, humanity can survive and thrive completely independent of the main galaxy. As the final hours of the ultimatum ticked away, humanity maintained its cold silence. There were no desperate pleas for mercy, no attempts at negotiation, no military posturing designed to show strength. The species that had always been known for their emotional responses and unpredictable behavior had simply stopped responding entirely. The silence was not surrender, though the aliens would not understand this until it was too late. It was the calm that comes before a storm, the deep breath before a leap into the unknown. Humanity had made its choice, and that choice was to disappear rather than submit. A 72-hour deadline passed without a single word from humanity. Admiral Vexman stared at the chronometer on his command deck as the final seconds ticked away, waiting for some last-minute communication that never came. In all his centuries of military service, no species had ever simply ignored a council ultimatum. "Sir, should we interpret their silence as refusal to comply?" asked his tactical officer, a young Centaurian whose eagerness for action was written across his face. "Silence is not refusal," Vexman replied carefully, though doubt crept into his voice. "Silence is nothing. How does one respond to nothing?" The Council had spent decades perfecting their integration protocols, but every previous scenario had involved some form of communication from the target species. Desperate pleas, angry defiance, attempts at negotiation, or formal surrender. All of these responses had established procedures. Complete silence was not covered in any manual. Kethver's image appeared on the main communication screen, transmitted from the diplomatic vessel that maintained a safe distance behind the main fleet. The Zephyrian's forearms gestured in obvious frustration as he spoke. "Admiral, the Council grows impatient with this primitive species' lack of respect for proper protocols. Perhaps a demonstration of our resolve will encourage a more appropriate response." Vexman had been expecting this order, though he hoped it would not be necessary. Demonstration strikes were a standard part of species integration, designed to show overwhelming force while minimizing actual casualties. 3 human mining outposts had been selected for the demonstration, small facilities with limited populations that could be easily overwhelmed. "Begin the demonstration strikes," Vexman commanded reluctantly. Target the mining stations in Sector 7, 12, and 18. Minimal force protocols. We want survivors who can carry word back to their homeworld. The Council fleet moved with practiced precision toward their targets. 3 destroyer-class vessels broke formation and approached the human outposts, their weapon systems charging but set to non-lethal settings. The plan was simple: disable the station's defenses, demand surrender, and use the captured facilities. As proof of Council superiority, Commander Lisa Wright watched from her position aboard the mining station Prosperity as the alien ships approached. The facility was one of humanity's newest asteroid mining operations, home to 300 workers and their families who extracted rare metals from the rich asteroid belt of the Vega system. All personnel to emergency stations, Lisa announced. Over the station's communication system. This is not a drill. Execute Protocol Omega Phase 2 immediately. The mining station had been designed to look like a typical industrial facility, but appearances were deceiving. Hidden beneath the standard mining equipment was technology that no other species in the galaxy possessed. Lisa's finger hovered over a control that would activate systems that had been tested in secret for years, but never used in actual operation. Dr. Helen Scott monitored the situation from her hidden facility on Earth, watching through quantum sensors that the aliens could not detect. Her team had spent months preparing for this moment, running simulation after simulation to ensure that the quantum displacement drives would function perfectly when needed. Quantum field generators are at full power, reported Dr. Marcus Webb. Displacement coordinates are locked in. We are ready for emergency transfer. The alien destroyer Righteous Purpose approached Prosperity with weapons powered but not yet firing. Captain Zolter had performed dozens of these demonstration strikes and expected the usual pattern. The humans would detect his approach, attempt to signal for help, realize their communications were being jammed, and then surrender when faced with overwhelming firepower. Instead, something impossible happened. Prosperity's energy signature suddenly spiked beyond anything Zolter's instruments could measure. The mining station, along with the asteroid it was built on, simply vanished. Not destroyed, not damaged, not moved to another location. It disappeared completely, as if it had never existed. Report, Zolter demanded from his bridge crew, staring at empty space where a mining station had been seconds before. Sir, massive quantum energy discharge detected just before the target disappeared, his science officer reported with obvious confusion. The energy pattern is unlike anything in our databases. It appears the entire facility was somehow displaced from normal spacetime. Similar reports came in from the other 2 demonstration targets. Mining stations Freedom and New Hope had also vanished in bursts of quantum energy that left the attacking alien ships scanning empty space. 3 successful surprise attacks had somehow resulted in 3 complete disappearances with no debris, no survivors, and no explanations. President Claire Adams received the reports from her Situation Room with carefully controlled satisfaction. The first phase of humanity's response had worked exactly as planned. The 3 mining stations had not been destroyed or captured. They had been safely relocated to Pocket Dimension Alpha, where their crews were already setting up temporary living quarters in a carefully prepared artificial environment. Phase 2 successful, reported General Paul Graham. All 3 facilities transferred safely with 0 casualties. The alien fleet appears to be experiencing significant confusion. Science Director Julie Martinez pulled up holographic displays, showing the pocket dimension where the mining stations now existed. Environmental systems are stable, life support is functioning normally, and the quantum gates remain secure. The stations can continue their operations indefinitely from their new location. The genius of the plan was its simplicity. Rather than fighting superior alien technology with inferior human weapons, Humanity had simply removed themselves from the battlefield entirely. The pocket dimensions existed in a state of controlled separation from normal spacetime, accessible only through quantum gates that could be activated or deactivated at will. Back on the Council flagship, Admiral Vexman was facing a crisis. Unlike anything in his military career, his demonstration strikes had accomplished nothing except proving that humans possessed technology that defied everything the Council understood about physics. 3 state-of-the-art warships had been made to look foolish by mining stations that had somehow stepped outside of reality itself. "Sir, incoming communication from the Council High Command," reported his communications officer with obvious reluctance. The image of High Counselor Mextron appeared on the main screen, his ancient features displaying the kind of controlled anger that had toppled governments. "Admiral, please explain how 3 primitive mining facilities managed to escape destruction by our most advanced warships." "High Counselor, the humans appear to possess some form of dimensional displacement. Technology that we were not aware of," Vexman replied, knowing how inadequate his explanation sounded. "They did not fight our forces or attempt to flee in conventional terms. They simply vanished from normal spacetime." The silence from the High Counselor stretched for long seconds before he responded. "Are you telling me that a species we classified as primitive has developed technology that surpasses our own understanding of dimensional physics?" "That appears to be the case, sir." Dr. Corinne White monitored the alien communications from her position on Earth's orbital defense station, using quantum decryption methods to intercept and translate the Council's internal discussions. What she discovered was both encouraging and concerning. "They're genuinely confused," she reported to Admiral Lisa Parker. "Their military doctrine has no provisions for targets that can simply disappear. They're treating it as a technological problem rather than recognizing it as a strategic choice." The aliens were making the same mistake that had led to their miscalculation of human nature. They assumed that all problems could be solved through superior force and advanced technology. They could not comprehend a species that would choose to step outside of their reality rather than submit to their authority. As news of the failed demonstration strikes spread through the Council fleet, something unprecedented began to happen. For the first time in their galactic dominance, the Council faced an opponent that they could not threaten, could not destroy, and could not understand. Humanity had not been defeated. They had simply refused to play by the rules that had governed galactic politics for millennia. Admiral Vexman had conquered 17 species during his long military career, but none of them had prepared him for what happened when the Council launched their full invasion of human space. The fleet of 500 warships spread across the solar system in perfect attack formation, their weapons charged and ready to destroy any resistance they encountered. They found nothing. "Report from the Mars Attack Group," came the voice of Captain Vel Khan over the communication system. "Sir, the planet appears to be completely abandoned. We are detecting no life signs, no energy signatures, no military installations. It is as if the entire human colony simply vanished." Vexman studied the tactical displays with growing unease. Similar reports were coming in from attack groups across human space. The massive orbital shipyards around Jupiter were gone, leaving only empty space where industrial complexes had operated for decades. The mining operations in the asteroid belt had disappeared without leaving so much as a debris field. Even the small research stations in the outer system had vanished completely. "What about Earth itself?" Vexman asked his communications officer. "Sir, we are detecting normal atmospheric conditions and biological activity on the surface, but no technological signatures. No cities, no military installations, no space elevators. The planet appears to have returned to a pre-industrial state." The answer came not from his crew, but from a human transmission that suddenly appeared on every Council ship simultaneously. The message was simple, broadcast on all frequencies, with perfect clarity despite their advanced jamming systems. "The people of Earth decline your generous offer of protection," said a calm female voice that spoke with absolute confidence. "Please reconsider your position regarding our species. We remain open to discussions between equals." The transmission cut off before anyone could respond, leaving the Council fleet staring at empty space and wondering how a supposedly primitive species had managed to broadcast through their most advanced communication jammers. Captain Frank Turner had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. As commander of the civilian transport vessel New Frontier, he had participated in dozens of evacuation drills, but this was the real thing. His ship was one of the last to leave normal space, carrying the final group of colonists from the agricultural world of New Kansas. "Quantum Gate is stabilizing," reported his navigation officer, Lieutenant Commander Joan Kelly. "Displacement field is at full power. We are ready for transfer." Frank looked out at the beautiful planet his passengers were leaving behind. New Kansas had been humanity's first successful attempt at terraforming a world of golden wheat fields and blue skies that had taken 50 years to create. Now they were abandoning it rather than let it fall under alien control. "All passengers, prepare for quantum displacement," Frank announced over the ship's communication system. "Remember, this is not goodbye to our homes. This is hello to our future." The New Frontier disappeared from normal space in a flash of quantum energy, joining the millions of other humans who had already relocated to the carefully prepared pocket dimensions. They left behind empty worlds and abandoned cities, but they took with them their freedom and their technology. High Counselor Mextran had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years, but he had never faced a situation like this. From his position on the Council homeworld of Zentara Prime, he watched reports from the invasion fleet with growing alarm. An entire species had simply vanished rather than submit to Council authority. Status report from Admiral Vexman. He demanded from his aide, a nervous Altarian who had served the Council for 3 centuries. "Sir, the Admiral reports that all human territories have been secured, but there are no humans left to secure. They estimate that over 8 billion humans have disappeared from normal space using technology that our scientists cannot explain or duplicate." The implications were staggering. If humans could step outside of normal spacetime at will, they were essentially immune to Council authority. More troubling was the fact that a species they had dismissed as primitive had developed technology that surpassed their own understanding of dimensional physics. Commander Sarah Woods stood in the main observation deck of Sanctuary Station, humanity's new capital in Pocket Dimension Alpha. Through the artificial windows, she could see a carefully crafted environment that included forests, lakes, and even artificial mountains that reached toward a synthetic sky. Population report. She requested from her aide, Captain Dan Phillips. "All major population centers have been successfully relocated," Dan replied. "Earth cities, the Mars colonies, the outer system research stations, even the deep space exploration vessels. Total population transferred, 8.3 billion humans, plus complete industrial infrastructure." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. The pocket dimensions had been designed to support not just human life, but human civilization. They contained manufacturing facilities, research laboratories, agricultural systems, and everything else needed for a technological society to thrive independently. Dr. Neil Brooks worked from his new laboratory in Pocket Dimension Beta, monitoring the Council fleet through quantum sensors that existed outside normal spacetime. His instruments could observe the aliens without being detected, giving humanity a perfect view of their former oppressors. "They are still searching," he reported to the Leadership Council. "The Council fleet has spread across human space looking for any trace of our presence. They appear to be genuinely confused by our disappearance." The psychological impact on the Council was exactly what humanity had hoped for. For millennia, They had maintained control through superior technology. An overwhelming force. They had never encountered a species that could simply opt out of their authority by stepping into alternate dimensions. President Claire Adams addressed the relocated population from her new office in the capital complex of Pocket Dimension Alpha. Her words were broadcast to every human settlement across multiple artificial universes. My fellow humans, we have accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history. We have refused to submit to tyranny, not through violence, but through the ultimate expression of our freedom, the ability to choose our own destiny regardless of external pressure. The response from the Council came 12 hours later, transmitted on frequencies that somehow reached into the pocket dimensions despite their isolation from normal space. Keth4's image appeared on screens across human space, but this time, his tone was different. Humans of the disappeared colonies, Zephyrian said, his 4 arms held in what his species considered a gesture of respect. The Council acknowledges that your technological capabilities were underestimated. We request immediate communication to discuss new terms for coexistence. The message was everything humanity had hoped to achieve. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was asking rather than demanding. They had been forced to recognize that some species could not be bullied into submission, no matter how superior. Their military might appeared to be Dr. Helen. Scott smiled as she read the alien transmission from her hidden facility on Earth. The quantum displacement technology had worked perfectly, but more importantly, it had forced the galaxy's oldest civilization to confront a new reality. Humanity would deal with them as equals or not at all. The age of human submission had ended before it truly began, not through conquest, but through the simple refusal to accept an unacceptable situation. Humanity had proven that sometimes the strongest response to a threat was not to fight it, but to step beyond its reach entirely. 6 months had passed since humanity disappeared from normal space, and the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. High Counselor Mextron sat in his ancient throne chamber on Zentara Prime, staring at reports that painted a picture of unprecedented crisis across Council space. The Altarian delegation is demanding answers about the trade disruptions, reported his aide with obvious nervousness. Their manufacturing worlds depend on rare metals that were exclusively supplied by human mining operations. Without those materials, their industrial production has dropped by 60%. Mextron had ruled for 2 millennia by maintaining absolute control through military superiority and economic dependence. Member species of the Council provided different resources and services in a carefully balanced system that ensured no single world could survive without the others. Humanity's sudden removal from this system had created shortages and disruptions that threatened the stability of galactic civilization. What about the Zephyrian territories? He asked, though he already knew the answer would be equally troubling. Sir, 3 colony worlds are reporting food shortages. Human agricultural techniques were apparently far more efficient than our own methods. The Zephyrians are requesting emergency food shipments, but our other agricultural worlds cannot make up the difference. The problems went far beyond simple trade disruptions. Humanity had been integrated into galactic society for barely 50 years, but their rapid expansion and innovative approaches to resource extraction, manufacturing, and agriculture had made them essential to the Council's economy. Their disappearance had revealed just how dependent other species had become on human efficiency and creativity. Admiral Jack Roberts stood in the command center of humanity's defense fleet, watching tactical displays that showed the current state of normal space from the safety of Pocket Dimension Alpha. His fleet of 200 ships represented the most advanced military force humanity had ever assembled. But their true power lay not in their weapons, but in their ability to appear and disappear at will. Report from Reconnaissance Squadron 7, announced Captain Lisa Mitchell. The Draxian pirates are moving against the Centaurian colonies again. Council forces are stretched too thin to provide adequate protection. Jack studied the tactical situation with professional interest. The Council's military had always relied on overwhelming force concentrated in key locations, but the chaos caused by humanity's disappearance had forced them to spread their fleets across dozens of trouble spots. Pirates, rebels, and ambitious warlords were taking advantage of the confusion to settle old scores and grab territory. Prepare Intervention Fleet Beta for deployment, Jack ordered. Standard protection protocol. We go in, eliminate the threat, and disappear before Council forces arrive. It had become humanity's new role in galactic affairs. The mysterious protectors who appeared when innocent lives were threatened solved the problem with efficient precision and vanished before anyone could demand explanations. They helped those who needed help regardless of politics or council authority, but they refused all attempts at contact or negotiation. President Claire Adams reviewed the latest reports from across human space while sitting in her office overlooking the artificial forests of New Washington. The capital city of Pocket Dimension Alpha had been designed to feel like home while representing humanity's hope for the future. Streets lined with earth trees led to buildings that combined human architecture with technology that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. The Altarian food crisis is getting worse, reported Secretary of State Jennifer Moore. Their colonies are facing actual starvation within weeks unless someone intervenes. Claire had been expecting this moment. The Council's request for communication had been ignored for months while humanity observed the consequences of their disappearance. It was time to demonstrate that Earth's children had not abandoned compassion along with submission. Authorize Operation Good Neighbor, Claire decided. Send the agricultural support fleet to Altarian space. Deliver the food supplies and medical aid, but maintain our communication blackout. Let them know we are still here, but on our own terms. The human fleet materialized in Altarian space without warning, peering from quantum gates that opened just long enough to allow passage. 12 massive cargo vessels dropped emergency food supplies and medical equipment on the 3 most affected colony worlds, then disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived. The entire operation took less than 6 hours. Kethfer stood in his private chambers aboard the diplomatic vessel, staring at a message that had appeared on his personal communication device, despite all security protocols. The text was simple, but its implications were staggering. Ambassador Kethvar, humanity remembers your courtesy during our first meeting. We bear no personal grudge against individuals who are following orders. If you wish to discuss a new relationship between our peoples, come alone to the coordinates attached to this message. You have 24 hours to decide. The Zephyrian diplomat had spent months trying to establish contact with the vanished humans without success. Every official communication had been ignored. Every attempt to locate their hidden bases had failed, and every effort to understand their dimensional technology had produced nothing but theoretical speculation. Now they were offering direct contact, but only on their terms. Kethfer made his decision quickly. He departed from the Council fleet in a small diplomatic shuttle, traveling to coordinates in empty space near what had once been the human colony of New Eden. He arrived to find nothing but vacuum and distant stars, but his patience was rewarded. When a single human vessel materialized nearby, Commander Sarah Woods met the alien diplomat in a small conference room aboard her ship, which existed in normal space only long enough for this meeting. The room was simple but comfortable, designed to put visitors at ease while making it clear that humanity no longer needed to impress anyone with displays of wealth or power. Ambassador, Sarah said with polite formality, thank you for coming. Alone as requested. My government has authorized me to discuss the possibility of a new relationship between humanity and the galactic community. Kethverse 4 Arms gestured in what his species considered deep respect. Commander, I must admit that the Council has gained new appreciation for human capabilities. We may have misjudged your species' level of development. The Council offered us a choice between submission and destruction, Sarah replied calmly. We chose a third option that your leaders did not consider possible. We chose independence. The negotiations that followed established principles that had never existed in galactic politics. Humanity would engage with other species as equals, providing assistance when needed and trading when beneficial, but they would never again submit to external authority or accept limitations on their expansion and development. The pocket dimensions would remain humanity's ultimate guarantee of freedom, a place where their species could survive and thrive regardless of external threats. From these hidden sanctuaries, they would continue to explore, to grow, and to help others when their aid was needed. Dr. Helen Scott watched from her laboratory as the first formal treaty between humanity and the Galactic Council was signed through. Quantum communication. The document established humanity as an independent power with whom the Council would negotiate rather than command. Status report on the Dimensional Expansion Project, she asked her assistant, Dr. Marcus Webb. Pocket. Dimension Gamma is nearly ready for colonization. We will soon have room for 20 billion people across our artificial universes, with complete industrial infrastructure and unlimited expansion potential. Humanity had proven that survival was not about being the strongest or most advanced species in the galaxy. It was about being smart enough to recognize when the game was rigged against you, and creative enough to change the rules entirely. They had walked away from an unacceptable situation and forced the oldest civilization in the galaxy to accept them as equals. The age of human submission was over. The age of human independence had begun.